John really tell you that Melly told him that he was two friends?
He ain't come out and say, like, we got it to a...
The date for YNW Melly's next bond hearing has been officially set by the judge. It's scheduled for Tuesday, May 6th, 2025. According to the Broward County Clerk, Melly's attorney, Raven Liberty, will present his argument for the rapper's bond. However, a lawyer present in the courtroom revealed that Judge Fein is seriously considering dismissing the case. Frustrated by the state's lack of preparation, the judge expressed anger over their failure to comply with orders and adequately prepare for hearings. Just when it seemed like things were going nowhere, the prosecutor delivered a shocking revelation. New evidence surfaced, shedding light on Melly's motive. A former OBLAC member who had turned informant revealed in an interview that Melly's motive for the crime stemmed from his reluctance to share finances with other YW members. This information was supposed to remain confidential, something that YNW Melly had shared with King Von. Unfortunately, Von disclosed it to OBLAC members before his passing. YNW Melly is a registered business through which he and Bortland performed concerts, sold merchandise, and promoted brands in exchange for payment. However, Sakasur and Juvie wanted a share of the profits without contributing any work, which led to a heated dispute. Melly's lawyers argue for his release, keeping it simple. They highlight that during the original trial, no firearm was ever found, which challenges the case's foundation. They also present GPS evidence showing Melly was seen running away down the street, corroborated by data from his cell phone provider, indicating he was not involved in the crime. At one point, he even messaged someone saying, "There's a car coming behind me, hiding." He texted, I think they're still out here." I asked, "Are you okay?" And he replied, "I'm okay." Then I asked, "Where are Sak and Juvie?" And he said, "I don't know if they're in the car, but I think they're still around." Meanwhile, as the judge reviewed the evidence for release, he decided to grant freedom to Melly's ex-girlfriend, Mariah. On Facebook, Mariah expressed gratitude to those who supported her during her detention, writing, "And to my village, thank you. I love you all so much. God's plan, not mine." However, she was reportedly upset by how the news had sensationalized her situation. Mariah Hamilton, with no prior arrest record, was arrested by U.S. Border Patrol agents at Miami International Airport after arriving on an international flight. Court records show she was ordered to testify in Demon's trial in 2023. The fact that the judge is allowing some individuals to be released before trial is seen as a promising sign for Melly. Additionally, it was revealed that Melly still needs to make an informed decision about which lawyers he wants to represent him. He's been in jail for 2,059 days, and the judge was clearly taken aback. Let me repeat myself. Mr. Demons has to make an informed decision about who he wants his lawyers to be, the judge said, emphasizing the lengthy period Melly has already spent in jail. How long would you like to make that decision? I can't determine when the investigation will be over, but I'm asking for a week or at least a day or two to decide. We've reserved all of tomorrow. The judge, visibly surprised by the duration of Melly's detention, turned to the prosecutors saying, "Give us a reason why he shouldn't be free by tomorrow, or I'm releasing him on bond." This situation led to prosecutors making a dramatic move. They forced Bortland to testify against YNW Melly. They've submitted paperwork to have Bortland and Melly tried together for a very specific reason. It benefits the state to do so. Trying them together makes the process more efficient, as it eliminates the need to repeat steps and increases the chances of them incriminating each other during the trial. On the other hand, the defense would prefer to have the trials separated, so they can point fingers at one another, hoping to shift the blame and avoid conviction. While some argue for a separation, the state is seeking the death penalty for Melly, meaning only the penalty phase of the trial would differ between the two. The guilt phase remains the same for both, as they are both charged with capital crimes. However, if Melly is found guilty, the penalty phase will be crucial. The logic follows that if Bortland knows he didn't commit the crime, he will not be willing to accept a life sentence without a fight, which makes it more likely he will start pointing the finger at Melly. But here's something you might not know. Melly's lawyer had already tried to pin the crime on Bortland during the first trial, claiming Bortland was lying about the details. Bortland was said to have shown up at Memorial Hospital with a change of clothes and powder residue on his hands, suggesting he discharged a firearm. He also lied about where the incident took place, how it happened, and even about not having a phone on him. As one of the witnesses, Miss Bradley, pointed out, everybody has a phone in their pocket, except for Cor and Henry. Melly's own lawyer revealed that it was actually Bortland who had been lying to the authorities. To back this up, they brought a forensic expert to the stand to discuss the powder residue on Bortland's hands. The expert confirmed that Bortland had residue on his left hand, which was consistent with handling a firearm. The analysis was clear. Bortland had been involved in the shooting. This moment was pivotal, and Bortland's defense team immediately advised him to avoid discussing the case on social media, as Bortland was furious about these revelations. When Melly's mistrial was declared, it only added to the tension and uncertainty surrounding the case.
The part where he's saying that someone just shot the car up and was trying to shoot him. So I asked him if he was okay, where he was, and he's like, there's...
A report revealed that on the same day Melly's mistrial was declared, W.W. Bortland sent out a cryptic tweet, "Mind games don't work on people like me," accompanied by a handshake emoji, which seemed to suggest he was accepting some sort of deal. When this tweet is considered alongside the damning evidence found on Melly's phone, things take a darker turn. Just hours after the crime, Melly sent a text that seemed to confess. When asked if he was okay, he responded with, "I did that," followed by a smiley face emoji. The timeline of his messages shows the chilling nature of his admission, with the YNW Melly account responding again at 4:02 p.m. Eastern Time. What after that, Shach? Even more disturbing was a saved video from a Facebook livestream showing Melly and Bortland just 6 hours after the crime, reacting with eerie indifference. Despite the tragedy of losing two close friends, Melly was seen acting upbeat, saying, "Still turned, regardless of what happened this early morning, still out here being very positive." It seemed as though he showed no emotion for the loss of his friends, adding a chilling layer to the case. This behavior led prosecutors to dig deeper into the physical evidence surrounding the crime. They focused on the Jeep the two were driving, as Sergeant Williams testified in the original trial that this couldn't have been a drive-by shooting. The evidence pointed to the shooter being seated where Melly was. According to the report, there were 3 rounds found inside the car, with one shot traveling across the driver's side back seat. Williams concluded that the crime had to have occurred inside the vehicle, where Melly was sitting. To further complicate matters, YW Juvie's mother took the stand and was questioned about who had been present in the vehicle that day. "Can you state your name for the record?" she was asked. "Leon," she responded, confirming her relation to one of the individuals involved in the case. The inquiry continued as more details unfolded. The questioning continued as the mother of one of the individuals involved, Christopher Thomas, was asked if she recognized who had entered the gray Jeep. "Yes," she replied, identifying where her son got in. "He got in the back seat on the right-hand side." When asked about the person who entered the left side of the back seat, she confirmed she recognized the individual, but the identity of that person was yet to be revealed. It was at this point that the prosecutors turned to the judge, stating, "It gets even worse from here." The shocking discovery came when investigators found troubling evidence in Mariah's iCloud account. It revealed that Melly had allegedly forced her to avoid testifying during the original trial, which is a serious crime known as witness tampering. This offense carries a life sentence, regardless of whether Melly was directly responsible for the deaths of Sack Chaser and Juvie. As a result, the state filed 6 new charges against Melly and 2 others, which included tampering with a witness, directing criminal activity, and conspiracy to commit tampering. Some of these charges carry life sentences if convicted. The witness tampering charge is separate from the original case involving Sack Chaser and Juvie. This means that even if Melly's lawyers managed to clear him of the charges related to their deaths, he could still face a life sentence if convicted of attempting to cover up the crime. The federal authorities began investigating Mariah after rumors started circulating in Melly's hometown, with people suggesting her involvement in the crime. Juvie's father, determined to uncover the truth, began asking around town, speaking with people from various neighborhoods. He was well known in many areas and soon learned about the secretive methods Melly had been using to pressure Mariah into not testifying. He informed the authorities about the bizarre tactics Melly employed. Despite being restricted from using a phone, he had been passing notes through intermediaries. They were going through extreme lengths to prevent people from testifying. Like Mariah, he said, describing how Melly used code words like Rihanna and ASAP Rocky's baby mom to communicate covertly. In response to these disturbing revelations, the jail had disabled Melly's phone privileges, and he had not been able to use the phones for months. The situation escalated when Melly's mother spoke out about the conditions in the Broward County Jail. She revealed that, even though her son had not been convicted of any crime, he was being denied basic rights that even convicted inmates were allowed, such as the right to make phone calls or receive his mail. "My son hasn't been convicted of anything, but they won't allow him to use the phone. They hold his mail and he can't even write to his loved ones," she said. "Other inmates, even those convicted of crimes, have these rights, but not my son." The situation surrounding Melly, an inmate accused of various crimes, including the use of jail phones for witness tampering, raises serious concerns about the extent of abuse and misconduct within the justice system. If the allegations that Melly used the jail phones to tamper with witnesses are indeed true, the jail's decision to restrict his phone use would be both justified and necessary. This restriction is not an arbitrary measure. It suggests that authorities have concrete evidence to support their claims. If the allegations were without basis, there would be no need to impose such a drastic restriction, especially considering the potential legal ramifications of infringing on an inmate's rights to communication. By cutting off his ability to use the phones, the jail is taking steps to protect the integrity of the legal process, which is essential in any trial. The fact that the authorities have taken such a measure implies that they have evidence of witness tampering that they intend to present when the trial begins. This only heightens the gravity of the situation, as it indicates that the case is far from speculative. It's based on verifiable evidence.
But let me repeat myself. Mr. Devins has to make an informed decision about who he wants his lawyers to be. He's now been sitting in our jail for...
The most alarming aspect of this scenario is the certainty that the evidence exists, and it will be revealed at the trial. Once the trial begins, the truth will come to light, and it will have serious implications not only for Melly but also for the broader issue of jail management and oversight. If the allegations are proven to be true, it will expose a troubling reality about the manipulation of the justice system from within, showcasing how inmates can exploit vulnerabilities in the system to interfere with legal proceedings. This would not only tarnish Melly's reputation, but could also lead to broader questions about the effectiveness and security of jail communication systems. In addition to these legal and procedural concerns, the emotional toll on Melly's family, especially his mother, Jaime King, is significant. King, devastated by her son's circumstances, has publicly expressed her helplessness and heartbreak over the abuse Melly is reportedly enduring in jail. As a mother, her sense of powerlessness is compounded by her son's experiences and the lack of control she feels over his situation. In an emotional interview, she recounted how Melly had confided in her about the abuse he was facing behind bars. Her words reflect the deep sorrow of a mother trying to come to terms with the suffering of her child, while also grappling with the larger systemic issues at play. "It's heartbreaking," King said, articulating the anguish that comes with knowing her son is in such dire conditions, and yet she feels helpless to change anything. Furthermore, King pointed out the need for a comprehensive investigation into the Broward Sheriff's Office, accusing them of operating with an unchecked level of authority. She believes that the office has been making its own rules, which has contributed to the abuse her son is allegedly enduring. King's frustration stems from the fact that despite their efforts to bring the mistreatment to court, the judge had no jurisdiction over the jail's internal practices. "We tried to have a hearing about the mistreatment, but the jail makes their own rules," she explained. This statement underscores the growing concern about the lack of oversight and accountability within the prison system. The situation raises critical questions about the abuse of power within correctional facilities and the difficulties families face when trying to advocate for their loved ones, especially when those in charge are seemingly beyond reproach. It also highlights the urgent need for reform and greater transparency in the management of jails and prisons. Melly's mother has been making headlines recently for an unconventional move to help fund her son's legal defense. In an interview, she revealed that she started a fan account to raise money while Melly stands trial. She explained her decision with a candidness that caught many off guard. "Why not do something crazy? I turned 40 this year, so I thought, why not make money while I sleep?" She also mentioned that on the first day of launching the account, the response was overwhelming. "It was pretty epic," she said, estimating that she made around $40,000 to $50,000 on day one alone. The news spread quickly, And even DJ Academics weighed in on the situation. He expressed confusion over why she would start such an account while her son is fighting for his life in court. I can't understand why she's doing this. Your son is fighting for his life and you're starting an OnlyFans account? He said, adding that while there have been other cases in hip-hop where mothers became stars alongside their sons, he never expected Melly's mother to take this route. Academics, however, dismissed the idea that it was about money. This can't just be a money grab, he remarked, but social media had a different view. This isn't the first time Melly's financial situation has been discussed. 2 years ago, a no-jumper interview with B Slime and Jaime King shed light on how much Melly had spent on his legal battles. Adam from No Jumper brought up the fact that Melly's legal expenses were significant, and B Slime responded by calling out his brother for spending money on frivolous things. He spent a lot of money on things that shouldn't have been spent. B Slime said, referencing items like cars and jewelry. Why are you buying jewelry when you're not even here to wear it? He questioned. Lawyers, that's where the money should have gone. Despite his brother's criticism, B Slime acknowledged that Melly was well taken care of when it came to legal fees. Money ain't an issue for lawyers, he added, but pointed out that Melly had made some questionable purchases that could have been better spent.